Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GothamChess Slow Run. As always, in this series, I'm playing on an authorized account on chess.com, going up the rating ladder, explaining my thought process every step of the way. And in this episode, we are finally approaching 800 ELO. But this episode is special for a totally different reason. This comes out on December 1st, 2025. And as of today, we are launching our very first holiday challenge on Chessly, my educational platform. Let me tell you why this is going to be pretty exciting for all of you. For the next month, you're going to have the opportunity to unlock all sorts of crazy cool things. We will be giving out signed Chessly hoodies. We're going to be doing a Chessly-wide Guess the ELO. And when you participate in the holiday challenge, here's all you have to do. You just participate in stuff on the website. You do some drills, you learn an opening or two, you collect XP, and then you open gifts. Because it's the holiday season, that gets you pawns. The more pawns all of you collect, the faster you unlock all of these rewards. But also, you can use your own pawns in the pawn shop. You get it? You get it? Pawn shop? Pretty epic. So you can get custom avatars, you can unlock skins for chess pieces, which are absolutely adorable. And in the long run, the more pawns you have, the more active of a user you are. We might add cool things like a group training session with yours truly. That's for those that are going to do a lot of stuff on Chessly and want more learning opportunities. I think this pawn shop concept is amazing. I'm super excited to launch it. Check it out for yourself. If you don't have Chessly yet, we offer a trial with no card required. I'll put a link in the description. And as always, it's also the Black Friday sale right now. So for your very first year, you can get Chessly for $49.99. Which, if you ask me, is a pretty awesome deal. I will now stop promoing. Check out Chessly. Check out the holiday challenge. Can't wait. And let's get into this episode of the Slow Run. For the very first game of this video, we are playing with the white pieces, and we will again open with the king's pawn. I went through a few videos, and I will play d4 later on in today's video. We have a Sicilian defense. Okay, wow, for the very first time, e4, c5 appears on the board. I'm not sure I've actually faced a Sicilian defense. Without talking too much about the specifics, one of the most fun ways of playing against the Sicilian defense is to prepare this pawn push in the center with this pawn, the Alipin. I will just show you what happens if you play the normal way against the Sicilian. So if you just play bishop to c4, my opponent is inviting me for a chat. It says they want to chat. I have a feeling it means they know that they will be featured in a Slow Run episode. But this is normal. Like playing e4 and then the knight and then the bishop against the Sicilian is okay if you just follow the principles. But now we are kind of graduating into the territory of, well, what happens if they have an opening and we just follow the basics, right? So, for example, what you're witnessing here, right? This is under attack. Now, I can't put two pawns in the center, but I will just put one. I will just protect my pawn in the center of the board. I'm just going to play normal, right? This is how I was taught to play. Well, you see, this is actually the problem. The problem is exactly what you are seeing on the board now, is that black played an opening, which means that their pieces actually make more sense given the current setup than ours. And so as you improve, it's a mix of following principles and also trying to actually play some setups against certain openings. This move attacks our bishop and a pawn. I think we can just capture. I think that's probably fine. Otherwise, we were going to get taken. Black can take with the pawn or with the knight. Now, if they do take with the pawn, our bishop is under attack. So many of you would immediately move this bishop. But I actually see that there is a king on the other side of the board. And we do have the ability to throw in this check. I think many people would do that. I don't actually think it's particularly scary. Black can just block the check. We are at a level where people know they don't need to move a king out of a check. They go here, which is okay, and now I have to move my bishop. I can move it here or here. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Both are all right, but I kind of like the pin. So let's make a pin. Why not? So far, 7 moves have been played by my opponent. No mistakes. 750. I mean, if this is the way 750s are playing, it's going to be a tough battle. Let's pin 2 things. So we have this pin and this pin. We haven't moved our dark squared bishop yet. And we also haven't moved our knight. So now I've gotten all my pieces into the game. Opponent attacks my knight. Normally, a bishop for a knight is not a particularly great trade, especially if you cannot really explain it. But in this case, if I go here, It's important to know how bishops can get dominated by pawns. Black's pawns will advance and trap my bishops. Actually, in this case, I don't really have a choice. And now, you know, many people here would think, oh, I should just trade everything. No. Black is certainly doing quite well here. It's definitely not easy to make a move in this position with white. Like, I'll be honest, I mean, we can just kind of like jump into the position and attack this pawn. This knight doesn't have a lot of moves. And this kind of all goes back to one thing. Pawn play in the center of the board. So pawn to d4 here is a perfectly reasonable move. I'm still going to give my opponent a chance to maybe, you know, make a mistake like take or push or something. But you need central control. Otherwise, you really struggle. Like, you can't just move pieces around the board absent-mindedly and hope for any sort of an advantage. Now, I had a lot of little moves. This is another very good move. I mean, my opponent's just playing very well. So this pawn's under attack. I can defend it or I can push it. I'm going to just sort of copy my opponent. I'm not doing anything too difficult just yet. But we will see. You know, we'll see how much longer my opponent can absorb the tension. This was a fantastic move, of course. And queen c7 is another reasonable move, but it's a slight inaccuracy. And I immediately am spotting it. This lines up with this, but this is defended. But the knight is no longer pinned, which means I can now take and open up the king. And now I have something to play for. In the previous position, I can't say I had too much to play for. I don't really know what my opponent's thinking about here, by the way. They kind of have to take. What? But okay. I just saved my bishop. I don't understand. What was that? This person was fantastic. Thought I was playing a grandmaster, and they pinned me, and I mean, I just asked myself, like, okay, what if I just moved the bishop? I just took a knight. They never took it back, so of course I'm gonna try to trade pieces. I have to be a little careful, of course. I'm not gonna be taking this with a knight, but oh goodness me, that was pretty random. I feel like up until that point, okay, I can take, of course, with the pawn here, not the knight. Now I just have an extra piece. Okay, that was, now I'm going to take with the queen, of course. We don't want to double our position. What? Yo, is this really chess at the 750 level? Like, people just play fantastic and then they lose all their pieces in 3 moves? This has actually happened several games in a row. I mean, my opponent was playing excellent chess, and before we continue, I'm gonna show you what my favorite opening is up until around 1800 against the Sicilian defense, the most effective. I'm gonna do a little Sicilian masterclass in about 5 minutes, but yeah, that was you know, I just played the way I'm supposed to show you the good and the bad, and a little bit later, I again just developed you know, my bishop, my you know, bishop here, bishop here, bishop here, all this normal stuff. And right, like I think up until this moment, right, in this position, I was sort of explaining myself more or less clearly, and we had quite a game ahead, and then it just sort of ended. So let's talk about. I can give you the recommendation of the Sicilian, or I can sort of show you why this doesn't work. Why does this not work? This setup for white is called Italian. It's also kind of called, like, you know, the beginner setup. You push the pawn, you put the knight, you put the bishop. Here's the thing. This happens. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. This is the setup. This is the most popular position of chess after 3 moves. But why? Have you ever wondered why? It's not just because you play pawn, knight, bishop. You put the bishop here because it has a direct target. Actually, I've had this position, but in reverse in this slow run. I was playing the Sicilian, and my opponent played bishop c4. The difference in this game is my opponent never committed the center pawn. Since they never committed the center pawn, now my bishop is just blocked. So putting it there before seeing the pawn structure that the opponent chooses is a slight inaccuracy. Very slight. At a, more advanced beginner level, it gets to be a bigger inaccuracy. And then as we saw later, I needed to move my bishop once again. So the best opening against the Sicilian, in my opinion, is the Alpin. Because in the Alpin Sicilian, you would like to play the move pawn to d4, but when black captures it, you would like to put 2 pawns in the center of the board. I have the Alpin on Chessly, and if you literally just go to Chessly, sign up for a free account, no credit card required, and study the Alpin, your win rate in the Sicilian defense is going to go up by 10%, like at minimum. Basically what happens is a position like this, which just looks completely fantastic for white. And sometimes you can even just immediately start attacking the knights, attacking them with pawns, and you get a position like this from the opening where you just bring your bishops, you castle, life is good. Life is good. So the Alpin is very nice, but in the Sicilian there are others as well. There's the open Sicilian, which is you develop the knight, and then regardless of the next move, you trade in the center. So what you do is you go pawn to d4, and you trade like this, and the game proceeds. You will see many Grandmaster games go like this. Why is this called the open Sicilian? Because the board is open. The closed Sicilian is when you don't offer the trade pawn to d4. In the closed Sicilian, you just develop. You leave these pawns exactly as they are, and then you move your bishop, your pawn, and so on and so forth. Me personally, I like the Alpin Sicilian, but there are many openings that you can play in the Sicilian defense with the white pieces. Okay, let's play black, and let's play a Sicilian defense. How about that? Oh, there we go. We are seeing one of those openings. This is a sacrifice of a pawn, or maybe my opponent's going to take with a queen. Oh, wow. Little move order trick. Now, this pawn's probably a goner. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to play one of the openings I think is really, really good for beginners, is the dragon or accelerated dragon. Generally, with the c-pawn, you also develop your knight. I mean, almost always. So I'm developing the knight. My opponent just lost the game in 4 moves. An 800 rated player. This is why you don't reinvent the wheel. This position has been reached by millions of players. They haven't ever played this move. Why? Because I have a check in this position. And it wins a bishop. It just straight up wins a bishop. Stop experimenting in the opening as you climb the rating ladder if you want to gain points. Please. I mean, for the record, I can't take. I was thinking takes, and then, but I just win a bishop. I just want a full bishop. And my opponent is offering me a trade of knights. This is no good. This is no good. We need to follow the principles. Bishop to b5 actually made sense if you just look for checks. You just scam the checks. You'll be amazingly rewarded. Now, I'm getting the sense this is an aggressive player, so I'm going to go knight f6. This is not the best move because it allows pawn push, and I think it's going to happen. Yeah, and now what's funny is that I actually have some problems here. So if we move the knight there, the knight can be trapped by a pawn. If we move the knight there, it will be taken. If we move the knight here, how does white punish our setup? With a fork. Let's see what happens if we fall into it. Now, I do see a follow-up. I do see a follow-up to pawn to c4. But you have to see the follow-up in the games. And then you're thinking, oh, I see the follow-up. Queen's hanging, king's hanging. You just give a check, obviously, and then you move your knight. You can't end your thought process on, oh, I just check. White is going to block with a bishop. Then your queen's hanging and your knight's still hanging. A lot of you would have given this check. But it doesn't work. So what do? Go there. Not in one move. Knight to b4. Setting up knight c2. Look at this. Knight b4. If they take the queen, we go knight to c2. Tricky stuff. Tricky, tricky. Opponent stops that. Now, you can save your queen, and you will be up the knight. So I'm going to go here. Will my opponent spot this? Big moment. Castling is the best move here for white. Will they spot it? By the way, I had something very cool, but way too difficult for this level, so I am not going to be playing it. Okay, so they didn't spot it, and if they take my knight, I will be taking their rook at the end. So I'm going to go here, because this was my sneaky little idea. Queen takes pawn on g2. And now probably they will castle. So it's actually still a very weird position, because I have no development. So my knight is hanging, I'm going to move it back and attack the queen. That obviously can't be a bad move. So the reason why this position isn't just immediately winning for black is because black actually has very poor development. And a lot of people here would just try to develop their pieces quite quickly, which would be a mistake, because you need to think, what does my opponent want? And my opponent didn't think that. My opponent thought, I'm going to take the queen, they're going to take my queen. What they failed to realize is a little tactic. I think white generally could work on their tactics. The queen's just hanging, right? And I'm going to lose my queen anyway. So I have a tactic here called a desperado. I take with check. First I grab a rook, then I grab a queen. And now I am completely winning. And I think after that, white is going to go here, and I will take the knight. And they just resign. Okay, wow. So a couple of good wins here to start this episode. Again, look, I just taught you the Sicilian, right? I just showed you the Sicilian defense. There is the open variation, there is the Alpine variation, and I was just gonna play my dragon. I've tried to play a couple of dragons, but this is just a mistake. And, you know, normally this move and this check, you have to remember this. You do have these moves like a queen check, king in the center, and attack a piece. But normally this doesn't work. Normally white can block with the knight, and provided that the knight is protected, it protects the bishop. But somehow this is a very rare case where my opponent left my pawn in the center. For instance, in this position, queen a5 check would not work, right? So you turn on the analysis. If I played queen a5 check, this doesn't work, because white would block with the knight and defend this. So even if I took this knight, I can't take this bishop. But the way that my opponent did this, they left the pawn here, and the knight could be taken. So it was just a, like, and again, it's just, I looked for the only check that I had. And in general, the c-pawn moving, both with white and with black, the c-pawn moving opens up this queen diagonal attack, which intermediates and beginners are quite bad at. They're quite bad at this queen. You know, most people are like, oh, 4-move mate. But it's actually the other diagonal that causes people a lot of problems. Now, this game was really, really goofy. So, first of all, trading here, what I should do and what you have to be very careful about in your own games is, if you're going to put a knight in the center, make sure it cannot be attacked by a pawn. And if it can, make sure it has mobility. I had no mobility after I played knight f6. Actually, my best move here is going literally back to where I came from. The best move here is pawn to d6, because it prevents the pawn from attacking the knight. That would have been the best move. But I'm deliberately doing things slightly wrong to see if people at this level will punish the mistakes, and also to try to get myself out of potential danger and show you how to get yourself out of potential danger. It's very debated. Like, if you look at the comment section, some people are like, I'm watching this to learn how to play the best way. Stop making mistakes. Some people are complaining that I don't make enough mistakes. I'm playing too perfectly. So I can never satisfy all of you. And also, this is not really a restaurant. Like, you can't just order whatever dish you want. Then you got to just deal with what you got, you know? I'm trying to make all of you happy. Now, I went knight d5. Many would go knight d5 and actually blunder c4. Just straight up not even see it. And I was trying to show you, like, the way to recover against the check, like, you know, a blunder like this. Don't just rush into the next mistake. You know how many of you would have played queen before check in 2 seconds? And then you would just be losing? You're actually not losing by a miracle, but you wouldn't have figured this out. I mean, you would not have figured out that queen b6 somehow is a really good move, because after queen takes, you take, and the only way to stop that is this, and then you go check, and then queen d1, and then you have a better position. Like, you wouldn't have figured that out. So I actually had a fork. Knight b4, knight c2 is a nice idea, and what's funny is a little bit later, also, side note here, you could go here and play like this, but now you have to dig yourself out of this position, which is not easy. There is a tactic in the position in this one, which is quite nice. It's I can fork the king and the queen, but not on this square. If you'd like to pause and try to find it, it's, again, if you look for checks, it's check and check. It's like a check and another check. It's there. Boom. It's kind of cool. Sack the queen. Make sure this can only be taken by a queen. Make sure you have access to that square, and make sure the queen is not protected. If the queen was protected, well, somehow, then that piece should have probably taken there. But yeah, this would have been a kind of cool tactic. Now, I went here, had my opponent castled. Another instructive moment in this game. How do I develop my pieces? I mean, I probably would have gone e6, tried to develop my bishop and castled like this. You do need to develop, because in the game itself, this is not an easy position for black. So this is what happened. This was the game. And I just want to ask you, like, had my opponent not played rook g1 and blundered this, if my opponent had gone queen e3, what should be black's next move? What is black's next move? And a better question is, what is white's next move? That is how you have to get better. If you're watching this as a 1500 going, these people are beneath me. Okay, black to move. I am only happy with one move in this position for black. Only one. Two. I'm happy with two moves. I actually accidentally played a slightly more challenging move. We can start with this move. Let's start in this position. I am only happy with one move for black. I really don't see a good defense for this. So you know what I would play here? I would not eat more pawns. I would play pawn to a6. This simple move completely strands the knight on the edge of the board, and I'm not afraid of these moves. Like, first of all, I can eat pawns. Second of all, I can just move my queen out of danger. Like, queen e4, and then queen f5, and then get out. If my opponent went here, a6 loses. a6 loses. It loses to the fact that my queen is now trapped. It cannot go this way or that way or take the pawn. Queen e3 is a very, very sneaky move. And this is not obvious at all. It does feel like your queen has a lot of getaway squares. So, yeah, you better get out. And then after knight b5, actually your only move is king d8. So black is up a lot of material, but has to get their king stuck in the center. This is still very much a game. Not only is this a game, here's a nice way you can lose this position. f4, and you go, this knight is annoying. Pawn to a6. Because you gave up this square. Check. Here. Check. Here, I can take the rook, but it's even nastier. I smother mate you in the center of the board. If you lose like this, I would not blame you if you deleted your chess account. Really, I mean, if you lose like this, that's brutal. And so the lesson here is, ask yourself what the opponent wants. If you want to be 1750, okay, we are in the 750s. You want to be 1750, it's going to get harder and harder. So we're going to start with d4. And depending on what my opponent... Okay, so d4, c5, interesting. This is actually one of the most annoying openings, believe it or not. Because if you're a Queen's Gambit player or a London player, your next move is here and here. Right? This move's kind of weird. What I always tell people to do against this move is... I mean, it kind of depends what you play. If you're a Queen's Gambit or whatever, just defend it. And so now you just trade it in the center and you can still quite easily play your London. Just don't accept the sacrifice, right? We can develop our knight, we can develop our bishop. Of course, we know putting the knight out is going to be a good move. Now we develop our bishop. Queen here would attack our pawn. So if you were 600 elo, you would immediately try to do something like this. Knight b5, knight c7. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, and then guess what? That same check would come back and bite. Hey, I want to see if my opponent's going to spot that. Is that mean? Oh, man. But it's so dangerous for me to play like that because I know it's bad. It's so hard for me to play this move knowing that it's a bad move. I think it's a really bad move because there's a punishment immediately. I can't do it. If we're going to play good moves, I'm going to play good chess. How about that? But I will show you, yeah? Okay, bishop here. Let's stick to the basics. We haven't developed our light squared bishop yet. Okay, a player who very quickly trades with us. Let's trade with the queen. And are they going to do that to us? Whoa! That's just a counting error. I mean, this is just a free pawn. I'm not... Now the knight's hanging too. And if they jump the knight forward, I'm going to probably take it. They just resign. Oh my... Okay, the last two videos, we have just faced people who just throw the game away immediately. I have no idea if it has to do with my account, if they're clicking on my account and seeing who they're playing. But, I mean, this is a bad position, but it's not hopeless. Why is it not hopeless? Look, if you're playing black here, let's say you've blundered into this position. One of the ways to fight back in a losing position when you're down material is to attack the opponent's king. Open up the king. Open up the king. Your knight is hanging. Open up the king. Knight to e4. After knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, all of a sudden, the king has to go into the center. Let me tell you something right now. Nobody is comfortable playing that position. And then you would play queen check. And then they would go here. And then you would take the pawn maybe. And then they would put the rook in the center. And then you would castle your king. Yo, there's a king here. Like, this is not easy at all. Of course, you got to be careful as well. I mean, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Actually, the white king is quite safe. And you don't know that it's +4 when you're playing. You have no idea. So you're going to go here. Just don't hang mate. And, you know, now it's game on. So when you blunder this, you can't just resign like it's a pawn. Nobody should be resigning at this level, a pawn down. Don't resign. What's the point? If you see you're playing me, okay, I can at least somewhat understand, but, you know, maybe not. All right? So here we go. I mean, all right. I am playing with the black pieces. We have e4, so I played a Sicilian. I'm going to play a Scandinavian. Let's play a Scandinavian, show you all. Okay, this is a normal treatment. We've actually seen this several times already. D and C together. We know D and C go very nicely together. And actually, what I would do here, you can defend. Taking, I wouldn't. You just help them. Hey, how about we push? Space is very nice in chess. It's very nice to have two pawns like this because they really make it difficult for the opponent to develop. So we see this move. I develop and I'm attacking the pawn, by the way, that they put there. Right? That pawn is now just straight up under attack. Okay. Now, if you continue the journey with the knight, this, I was about to say, is protected. Now, that's where chess gets a little bit dicey, right? This is tactics. This position is a tactical position. So my opponent went bishop here. What's happening? First thing you got to think about with this move. Our bishops see each other. Should I take and help them develop? Should I get taken? Should I block? It's one of those cases where anything is okay. It's going to be very tough for you to evaluate. Now, what I would like for you to do is actually spot that you have a check that has appeared before your very eyes. Because this bishop is gone. Now, it's very rare we get to walk into the opponent's territory with a horse. In this particular case, I know that it's not very powerful because there's no follow-up, but even this move is pretty reasonable. So what do? This move looks like a free pawn, but now we go to the next level. Does my opponent have a tactic? Does my opponent have a check? And for the third time, I think, in this very video, the side queen check would win back the knight. That's kind of brutal. Queen a4 check would straight up win back the knight. I don't expect all of you to see that, but it's about damn time that if this is on episode 12, you start paying attention to these side checks. In the meantime, I'm going to make a few moves. Now, there's a plot twist. If I take now, and this check is given, I will block with my queen and then win back that knight. Am I supposed to see all that? No, I think what's much more natural is to play something like this and see if white sees that the knight is hanging. I just replaced my bishop with another diagonal attacker. So the knight is now under attack. See, this is very simple and straightforward chess, and people are just like not, I don't know, they're not paying attention. Now, my knight's hanging, I see that, so I can move it. I can't go here, I can't go here. I do have a move here that is extremely powerful, which is disregarding this completely and going queen to g2, but I think it's just much more straightforward to move the knight. I also could protect the knight with my queen or with my pawn. Generally speaking, you can also counter. There is this check. I'll be very curious if my opponent spots it. My king is wide open. So if you're 700 here and you're in desperate times, okay, very well spotted actually. And now people would be like, oh man, I gotta move my king. Absolutely not. You absolutely do not have to move your king. No, you can come back with the queen. But let's just say I didn't realize. So now my king is in the center against a queen and a bishop, right? This is I think my opponent's gonna give me another check. It's only natural. They don't have anything else. Ooh, oops. They're trying to come here. Now the good news for me is I can block that check. So I haven't gotten all my pieces out yet. Let me develop my knight. You know how dangerously close I am to losing this position if I keep moving my king? Like, extremely close. Extremely close. I mean, I was just a moment away from allowing this move. By coincidence, the knight just covers it. But with this few pieces, you very rarely can attack a king with a fully fortified position. Fully fortified meaning 8 pawns. I have all my original pawns, most of my pieces. You just have a lone queen, you know? And what's going to ultimately happen is, look, I'm not giving any check, I'm not doing this. I'm going to start offering you a trade of queens. If I can get the queens off the board, you will lose, because you will never mate me, right? So yes, white should absolutely go here. Now, second time in this video, does a person see a long queen move? They didn't see the previous one. Okay, good. That one they actually, nice. Now I need to get my bishop out. So I will. This is defended by the knight. And I will develop my bishop. This is a weird position because both of us have kings in the middle. Okay. They want to open up their rook. Let's not let them open up their rook. Let's defend the center. So that when they take, I block the rook. I could have also taken. Nothing is scary. We're looking at this. That's defended. Okay, this move makes sense. Funny thing about this move is that it's a mini mistake because I can check and win the pawn. Then I would be giving up this, just showing you all of the mechanics of the position. Fascinating, right? I think most people here would just play this move in a second. Defending this pawn is not so simple. You have to slide your rook over. If you push, I take. This position is very closed. How do we know the position is closed? A lot of pawns. More pawns on the board, higher chance that they are intertwined, right? And closed and locked. Okay, I mean, there is no more effective way to block a bishop check than with a pawn, especially if the pawn is protected. So I kicked out the bishop, and now I will go and eat the pawn. So I won the pawn. My knight is hanging. Behind it stands another knight. That knight is protected. So knight to e3, which is not a good move. Why is it not a good move? I immediately allowed my opponent to get their knight out. It's not a very good trade. My pawn was restricting the knight. On the flip side, when you're winning, you should try to trade material. Actually, now that I'm sitting here, it was a good move, but only by coincidence. only by coincidence. I got a little bit fortunate. But generally speaking, like, there was no need to rush in like this. But on the flip side, we are winning, so trading material is not so bad. Now, how do I win this position? I used to use an age-old saying of, if you are up material, you have to use your material. We are up material. We have an extra bishop. So we need to use our material to overwhelm the opponent. Don't just attack them with one piece, okay? Will it work if we attack them with one piece? To be honest with you, probably. Like, honestly, if they, like, it really, really might work. So, for instance, here, I would go queen to f2, attacking the rook, and there really is a chance that I could win this position without even touching my rooks. But in the long run, that's not going to work. Look, they're, really, really pushed back. But see, like, now, what do I do here, right? What's my next move? Not so simple, How do I get my rook into the game? Well, I can start like this. But this is already going slightly wrong. I think rook f1 or rook e2 is going to happen. Like, my knight and my bishop, they're kind of stuck. The way you win this is not like this. This is the wrong plan. It really is. It's just not particularly effective. Another way to win the position, look, now I have this funny move. This forces a trade of queens. And now I just have an extra bishop. How do you win against two rooks and a knight? Don't blunder a fork, trade pieces, win an endgame. So let's go here. Oops, I blundered a fork. But I got lucky because I can defend my bishop. But don't blunder forks. In an endgame without a queen, with rooks, knights, the king becomes more active. The king cannot be attacked from a distance so easily, especially on the diagonals. So now I will attack the knight. My opponent actually doesn't have any other choice. They have to take, which benefits me because I'm trying to trade pieces. The more pieces we trade, the less they have to defend with. I have an extra knight, and I think I have an extra pawn, yeah. I wanted to go e4, but now this would come with check. So let's bring our rook to the center, and then get our king out of the center, so it's not in the line of the rooks. That's if the king is is standing there on the opposition. This is just, of course, a mistake because I should have taken with the other pawn, but I was showing you it's check, and I'm trading, and I'm gonna trade this rook as well, and they absolutely should not trade with me because if they do, they will never, ever, ever survive. Good. Unfortunately, in comes the rook to the second rank, as always. Rooks on the 2nd and 7th rank of endgames, absolutely brutal. Take everything. I don't have to take. I can keep going for the pawns. This is check. I don't have to take. Okay, this one I should take, but this is also check. But let's take this one. Then they're going to come here and get mated. I didn't even have to take the pawn. Oh, I'm going to show you something cool. Are you ready? You ready to see something really cool? Imagine you were playing this position with white. This is why you should never resign. Look at this. King c4. Let's say they didn't see mate and they took your pawn. You look at this position, you go, hey, I can't move my pawn. I can't move my king. It's almost checkmate. Wait. This is almost stalemate. If I didn't have this rook, this would be a draw right now because I don't have a legal move. What if I sacrificed my rook? Like, what if I went rook to f3, rook takes? Yeah, it's a draw. But rook f3 is not forced. Rook f3 is not forced. Black might give you a check or something, or I don't know. You know what is kind of a cool move? It also doesn't quite work, but it's rook takes f6. Look at this little sneaky move. If you take the knight on f6 with check, it attacks the king, and they would just go, what? And take back, and they would stalemate you. This is why you never, ever, ever resign. Because you never know. You never know. All these little moments are hidden in your games. Now, in this game, folks, I explained my thought process in the opening very clearly. I put two pawns. I always do this against the Scandinavian, the D and C together. And then I develop my knight, attacking the pawn. And then pawn to c4 was played. If pawn captures, bishop captures. Right? Could I have defended this and developed something else? Yes. But generally, if you can push pawns in a way
where they defend each other, like here. Well, not each other. If one defends and then, you know, I just have to protect this one. If you look actually at the position, this is a very weird thing where my opponent isn't able to develop. It's a very unique structure. Compare it to something like this, where these pawns are together, defending each other, taking away my space, whereas what happened in the game is my opponent blocked their own bishop and their own knight. This structure is already better for black, minus 0.5, already better. And after this move, and this, I mean, this is... We just won a pawn, and then we went on to win the game. Now, the funny moment was here. I think a lot of people would autopilot knight takes pawn in one of these positions, or knight to d3 check. Knight to d3 is a totally reasonable move. You can then take the bishop. That's fine. Totally fine. I mean, the king moved. Like, if you can make a king move on move 6, it's probably good. It's probably good. I'm not going to lie. So this is probably pretty reasonable. But if you took this pawn, you had to be real careful looking at this side queen check. And that's it's easy to spot this. It is not easy to spot, oh crap, queen a4 check. And that's what I'm hoping you start learning with these slow run videos. We are very close to 800. We will cross it in episode number 13. I hope you are learning. I hope you are enjoying. And I hope you get out of here.